It started after midnight, in that deep, quiet part of the night when the world feels like it's holding its breath. I was sprawled on the couch, lost in the blue glow of a movie I'd already seen a dozen times. My body was a lead weight, limbs heavy with the day's exhaustion. I hadn't so much as twitched a muscle in at least 2 hours. That's when my wrist buzzed. I glanced down at my smartwatch, the screen bright in the dark room. Step count, 14,302. I frowned. That seemed about right for the day. I'd been busy, running errands, a long walk with the dog. But why the notification now? I dismissed it and went back to my movie. A minute later, another buzz. I looked again. Step count, 14,308. My heart did a little stutter step. 6 steps. I was sitting perfectly still. Maybe a glitch, a software bug. It had to be. I tried to ignore it, to focus on the film, but the thought was a splinter in my mind. Another buzz. 14,315. 7 more steps. Each vibration was a tiny, electric shock against my skin. A soft but insistent BZZZT that made the hairs on my arm stand. UP, BZZZT, 14,321. BZZZT, 14,329. The numbers were climbing, steady and rhythmic, like someone was walking at a slow, deliberate pace. My breath hitched. This wasn't a glitch. A new alert popped up, stark white letters against the black screen. Activity detected. My living room, once a cozy sanctuary, suddenly felt vast and menacing. Every shadow seemed to deepen, to stretch into unnatural shapes in my peripheral vision. I held my breath, listening. Silence. The only sound was the faint dialogue from the TV and the frantic thumping of my own heart. I couldn't shake the feeling though. The feeling of being watched. The feeling that the activity the watch was detecting wasn't mine. With trembling fingers, I fumbled with the clasp of the watch. It felt strangely cold against my skin, alien. I unstrapped it and placed it on the glass coffee table in front of me, the screen facing up. I needed to see it, to prove to myself that it was just a machine malfunctioning. I stared at the glowing numbers, my eyes wide. BZZZT. The watch vibrated on the table. The sound a dry rattle against the glass. That's when I heard it. A sound from the hallway, so faint at first, I thought I'd imagined it. A soft, shuffling sound, the scuff of a shoe on the hardwood floor. My blood ran cold. I strained to listen, every nerve ending on fire. Scuff, scuff. The footsteps were slow, measured, echoing the exact rhythm of the watch's vibrations. My gaze flickered between the dark, gaping maw of the hallway and the relentlessly climbing numbers on the table. 14,352, 14,360. Scuff, scuff. Panic clawed its way up my throat. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This was impossible. I was alone in the house. I had locked the doors hours ago. The windows were shut. There was no one here. But the footsteps were undeniable, growing closer, more distinct with each agonizing second. They weren't hurried or frantic. They were calm, methodical, as if someone was taking a leisurely stroll down my hallway, heading straight for the living room. The watch buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a step update. A new notification lit up the screen, brighter than before. Pace optimized, route learned. My mind reeled. Route learned. What route? The path from the front door. The path to my bedroom, the path from the end of the hall, to where I was sitting right now. The footsteps were just outside the living room now. I could almost picture a figure standing there, just beyond the edge of the light, cloaked in the shadows of the doorway. My survival instinct finally kicked in, overriding the paralysis of fear. I scrambled off the couch, my legs shaky and weak, and backed away, putting the coffee table and the couch between myself and the hallway. My eyes were locked on that dark space, expecting to see a shape, a face, anything, emerge from the blackness. The footsteps stopped. The silence that followed was a crushing weight, heavier and more terrifying than the sounds that had preceded it. It was a silence filled with intent, a waiting silence. Then, the smartwatch on the table flashed a brilliant blue. The color bled across the small screen, a final, horrifying alert. User no longer required. The words burned into my retinas. User no longer required. It wasn't my activity tracker. It was tracking something else, and it had learned my home. It had optimized its pace, and now it had arrived. The watch vibrated one last time, a long final buzz that seemed to echo in the dead quiet of the room, a period at the end of a sentence, and in that same instant, the footsteps started again. Not from the hallway this time. They were behind me. Scuff, scuff, right behind me.